I got space on the cloud. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Well, welcome, Rachel and Matt. It's nice to see you. Today, I've invited you to have a conversation about our work together. And I have such a community that is so eager to hear about, how you have been so successful with your health goals. And so we just wanted to have a conversation, especially since I do have, several couples that come to me and want to learn about how to do this to get together. And your story is something that I think is unique because you had a few bumps along the way as well as we've been working together. So wanting to hear a little bit more about how you've overcome them along the way. So let me start off by asking you, why did you seek out working with, wanting to work with a nutritionist in the first place?
Well, for me, I had done a lot of dieting since I was 16. And I didn't know what was healthy anymore because I had done so many fad diets and nothing worked and nothing was sustainable. So I was like, I don't even know how to eat healthy. And so when I was looking online, your name popped up. And so that intrigued me. And I was just kind of ready to take that leap and just kind of learn how to eat healthy and eat sustainably.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I felt like, my whole life being athletic, I could kind of eat what I want and feel okay. And I just got to this point where I felt kind of like tired, lack of energy. I didn't even know like where to begin and what to do. So yeah, I think it was just figured that it was probably best to work with someone who knew what they were doing and a professional to kind of help guide us with whatever our goals were.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. So you had you in the past have, had a history of being in tune and athletic and active, but now things are sort of, changing in life, changing in your body, and you needed some guidance on how to get back to that, the way you wanted to feel, the way you wanted to look and feel. Okay. And what sort of stood out? Rachel sort of said a little bit, but you found me on the internet. So you looked out, you'd heard my name, and I'm curious because we redid the website last year. I'm just curious what sort of popped out to you if during your search, if you could share that.
Yeah, I just looked at your website and I don't know, the energy spoke to me. Usually that's how I go by. I just kind of felt right and felt like what we were looking for was the nutrition plan and just aligning with our goals and just getting us back on track. So it was just fate that it all worked out.
Well, and I like that you even though we met online and I don't think we've even met in person, but the fact that your office is kind of close to our place. So anytime we had to do something, it was close, it was convenient, it was easy to stay accountable to you and the work we were doing, having those resources close to us as well. So
yeah. So having so Rachel and Matt, you were both, all of our work was done virtually. However, because you're local, you do have the advantage of being close to my office space to utilize the body composition machine as well, to be able to keep measures of keep on track with looking at how that was shifting and changing during the changes you were making. Okay, great. So tell me about what parts came easy during your journey. And your journey, actually, before we get into that, maybe you could tell me, share each of you, what were your top two goals? Like, what is it that you were trying to change or make different?
For me, it wasn't so much about weight loss per se. I was relatively okay around the weight that I was. So it was more about fat loss and maintaining muscle. So that was kind of, for me, the goal. And just honestly, just feeling, I was drinking, a pot of coffee in the morning, 300 milligrams of pre-workout, working out, more caffeine in the afternoon, just to keep like alert. We have a toddler, and I felt like that's just not sustainable. And then my sleep would tank, and I get really poor sleep. So I really had those kind of goals. For me was just like to feel better, but like maintain muscle and lose body fat. So yeah, I wasn't so much concerned with the number on the scale.
Right. So it wasn't the number on the scale of weight, but it was more so how you were feeling. So you really
Yeah.
were looking for that improvement in energy, alertness, and feeling good inside your own skin with that fat loss.
Yeah, and then also, it's like we do CrossFit, and I just when I certain things, it's like you go and you work out and you work really hard and you do this, and then kind of just plateauing and not really progressing because of the stuff I'm putting in my body. So it was also kind of I had some goals around performance and some things coming up, and I eventually injured my back, which I'm sure we'll talk about some of those bumps we hit in the road. But yeah, just a way to fuel your body for the activities that you're doing.
So making sure that you could have the stamina and the endurance for when you were working out and to do the rest of your life, right? You have a busy life, you travel for work, you've got a young toddler, like making that all happen.
Yeah, and then also to be flexible too, because we didn't want, I'll speak for myself, like I didn't want a program that was, and like to work with someone that was like so rigid that I was gonna have to like literally track. The tracking came easy as far as the app. That was one of the easiest things for me to do, because I realized like, wow, like my portions were just like way out of control. I shouldn't say out of control. They were just bigger than I actually needed based upon that. But I didn't want to work with someone or a program that was so rigid where I was going to have to like micromanage every single thing I was putting in my body. I wanted it to be like roomy and have that flexibility and still be able to maintain those goals.
Cool. How about you, Rachel?
So for me, giving birth to the baby, it was a little bit different goal in the sense of, I wanted to lose some weight, just because I felt I never really got back to how I was pre-baby because I was tired and exhausted. And so I didn't really know exactly how much. I just want to see, okay, let's see how 5 pounds looks. So I was just trying to, like, a small goal. And then the second piece was kind of what Matt already talked about, but having energy for having a toddler and working full time at a startup and all the other stuff I had going on. So those were my 2 main goals.
Gotcha.
This blur kind of, I might have to take
just pull a little forward.
Just
a little forward. That should work.
Just like when someone moves is when we lose it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's trying to focus on both. It's trying to focus on both of you at the same time. I think. You know what I mean? It's dark.
I'll just turn it off. It's fine. Maybe it's better to have the toddler background. I don't know.
It's a nice background.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you just clear it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
No, it's great. Yeah. So, so we talked about your goals and some of the things that sort of came easy, but then during the course of us, the time that we were working together, you both encountered some struggles along the way. I wondered if each of you take a minute and sort of share what some of those bumps were.
It's just crazy. So during this time, because you commit to kind of your program and I'm going to commit for 3 months to doing this, but during that time, we all got COVID, and then we go back to childcare. Our daughter goes back to childcare after it's been a week, and then she gets hand, foot, and mouth, and then
I think it was 2 weeks actually.
Yeah.
So she was childcare was closed for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we made it a week, and then she got hand, foot, and mouth, and then it was just that, was another big thing. And then my mom, we ended up putting her in assisted living because she has dementia, Alzheimer's, so that was another big ordeal. And I was going there every night, and so I was just kind of in survival mode at that point, just to kind of get through all those challenges.
Yeah, and you were sleep training your toddler during part of the work we were doing as well. Yeah, so quite a few challenges. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So like one of the things that I was doing was I was training for like a CrossFit Open like online competition that's done every single year, and I ended up throwing my back out again. And so it was kind of like, it was actually like the third time in as many months, and so it was actually a blessing in disguise. But at the time, it was really frustrating because like the work we've been doing, and yeah, it just really kind of threw me for a loop. So that was hard because my mind, when that's happened before and like I can't do anything, you just like sit around, I'm on a couch, yeah, I'm not really moving, I'm not really doing anything. So I kind of reevaluated, and we talked about a couple of things, but one of the things I got into was like physical therapy, working with like a weightlifting coach doing physical therapy. And when I say it was a blessing in disguise, it ended up really helping me coming back stronger actually than I was before. But yeah, that was a real bummer to kind of be training for this and working really hard on the nutrition. And then all of a sudden you're just like, wow, like I can't even do this. So now like, what's my purpose? Like why, right? It's a lot easier for me if I have a goal in mind to be able to commit to doing something. And yeah, that was a hard one, but I will say there were definitely times where I would say I kind of got, I don't even want to say got off track, but I think like honestly tracking, even if there were days where I just was like, I'm eating whatever, right? Like at least staying accountable and like tracking that stuff like helped me get back on track like the next day. So it wasn't, how I was living previously.
Right, right. And this is really important. One of the things I wanted to highlight is that given the challenge, the bump in the road, so to speak, because you had tools and you had a way back. So it shortened your time maybe from,
Right.
making choices that you wouldn't necessarily want to, because you stayed on track and had some accountability and a
Right.
partner in doing so, that you were able to kind of just shorten that. It was a few hours or a day, not a whole week that you were off track, right? And it just kind of honed you in, because it did not then hinder you. You had, as we'll get to, some really great results, right? So that's something that is important for people. I wanted to share that because a lot of people have bumps, and it's okay. It's just having someone alongside you and having tools in place to help you through it, right?
Right.
Rachel, what about you?
So I kind of discussed the challenges and how I got through that. So before, like I said, I always crash diet or what I do well for a few months, and then it's done. And then I'm like months, I'm like a year, I'm just like doing whatever I want. And I have a hard time getting back. So during that period, like sometimes, I was like, I can't, let me just survive. Like, I think I made it a week still being, pretty on top of everything. And then I was just like, let it go. And kind of just get through all my mom stuff. And I was able to just get back on track a lot quicker than I normally would. Which just felt really good. I didn't have to be like this all or nothing. And I think because the program isn't restrictive, plus I had like a calorie range, which it's psychological. Like if you tell me it's this number, like, and then I go, it's like, I have to try to, like, you're at the gas station and you want to get the exact amount of money, It's like, can't write on that number. It becomes obsessive. So I think the range was helpful for me. Okay, just stay within this range. And so, it was just for the first time, I was like, oh, wow, like, it's okay. Like, let's move forward. And that's like realistic because people are going to have stuff going on and they might not be able to meal prep or like prepare everything, and it's okay. And I realized too with doing the body comp, like it actually doesn't throw you off as much as I thought. Cause I'd be like, oh, now I'm at a 10% body fat. Like my head would say that, right? Cause you just kind of fell off. And it's really not true. So your body, it's okay. Like it's not gonna, permanently set you back.
So you had some tools along the way, and you had some checkpoints along the way, but it allowed you also, the program's designed, as for being able to have a lifestyle change, right? It's not a diet. As you said, you've been on diets before. This isn't a diet. This is a new way of eating and living. And that leads me into the next question of sort of, it's been, a few weeks, it's been a couple months since the program finished. And I'm curious now if you would share, you know, a little bit about how things are going. Like, how has it been now that we don't have weekly check-ins and that type of thing? How are things going?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, I would say it's not even more challenging, but I would say it's a little more challenging not having the weekly check-ins. But what I will say is that like when I still like, I'm much more conscious of what I'm eating, how much I'm eating, the types of foods I'm eating, and still here and there, like I'll go for like 4 or 5 days tracking if I kind of start to fall off, to get me back on track, right? Because now I'm actually pretty confident as far as like, and what I'll do too is like sometimes I'll track at the end of the day just to like give myself that reassurance, like, hey, you do know this, like you are confident in what you're doing, just to make sure that, like, you know, just to give myself that peace of mind. So I will say it's definitely not as I want to say strict isn't the right word, but not as dialed in as when you're in the program doing it, you have the goals, and now it's just kind of like maintaining that lifestyle. And I think one of the things that I really like too is, for me, I don't focus so much on calories versus macros, which I learned, which I never did before, right? Because that was one of the things with the results, was like at first during the program, like I was losing too much weight too fast, right? Which some people, that's their goal. And so instead of looking at the calorie specific, it was much more about the macros. And then I just generally go like how I feel. So I would say that really helped me, like being confident in knowing, okay, portion sizes, types of macros, you know, a complete meal for sure.
So since you've been off the program, then you've got tools that help carry you through to keep your goals in check, keep the changes you've made, along with having the skills around mindful eating, being able to understand, okay, well, how do I feel? Like knowing when you're kind of off, and then utilizing something to go back and check that. Okay, let's bring it into check.
And I definitely noticed that how my sleep and how recovery affects my food choices. Like that is by far, I think, the biggest determining factor for food choices, right? Because if I'm just exhausted, sleepy, I slept terribly, like I want the quick, easy, sweet thing that is going to give me that energy. But so it really is helps me. Even if I don't get that sleep, at least I kind of know what's going on with myself, and that it's really, so I would just say sleep and recovery are really important to maintain this ongoing basis.
I'm so glad you brought that up. What was that, Rachel?
Sleep train your kid.
Sleep train your kid.
If your kid's like,
exactly, right?
Well,
I'm so glad you brought sleep up, because, you know, as you know, many people come in and they're just looking for that diet plan and exercise, and the program has the 5 pillars, and sleep is an integral part, right? It's one of those 5 pillars of being able to make these lifestyle shifts. It's a foundational part of our life, and if we can dial it in better, it only helps us in the long term in so many different ways. Rachel, how about you?
I echo what Matt said, in the sense of it's more challenging, but I think for me, it's like keeping, what are my goals again? Like what is important to me, and keeping those at the forefront of my mind, because I think that's what it is. It's right. We check in and you're reminded every week of my goal. And I'm like, okay, what are my goals now? And you kind of have to still work to get there. And even yesterday, I was like, oh, I'm so tired. And I was like, Matt, should I have a coffee or should I go on a walk? And we ended up going on a walk together. And it just, again, like doing that actually gave me way more energy than having the coffee. So I think it's like, it's those constant reminders. And I think the biggest thing for me is not being so hard on myself. Because that's kind of, when you're in that, especially people who diet a long time, it's like you just go to that place a lot. And so it's really like, it's okay. Like just these tiny baby steps of like, I'm going to go on a walk, even though I want to eat this because I'm tired. Like that's the biggest thing. It's my comfort, it's going to make me feel good really quick, especially if I have anxiety or stress at work. And so it's like learning new tools to kind of give you that without going to the quick fix. So it takes time. It definitely does. And I think this is like the longest we've ever kind of stayed on the path. Like,
Right.
you know, we've been together 8 years and we've done so many different things together. And I'm like, in this plan, like we talked about the macros, I'm like, oh, I've missed like carbs. Like you can have carbs, protein, and fat, and you know, and within your macro count. But like I noticed such a difference at the gym. Like I have, because I gained a lot of muscle, so much muscle now. Just by losing those like 6 pounds, but gaining a lot of muscle and losing fat, it's crazy. And like everything's gotten better for me at the gym. Like I'm a lot stronger. So it's awesome to see.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. You touched on a couple things there. One was that it's, you know, you have these tools that you can carry over. And the other thing was that you, even though we don't have weekly check-ins, you two have each other to help be accountability partners, right? To help check in on those goals. So that's something that's really unique and key about, you know, partners that work with me, which leads into my next question.
But then sometimes when we want to get a crumbles cookie at like 9 o'clock at night, and your partner is like, hey, I want a crumbles cookie. And you're like, that's a great idea. So no, I'm just kidding. But what is life without eating chocolate chip cookies? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I didn't disagree. You know, one of my mantras is celebration without deprivation, but it's just knowing if it fits in and you know how to you know how to do it. Celebration needs to be there as well, right? It's just when you end up doing it, you know, every night, then that gets you into trouble. So.
Well, and I think also what I like too about the program, like right away, right? You can kind of have big goals, but some of the small, I guess, like commitments, like something I went back to recently, I was like the first thing I committed to was the first week or whatever. It was like, I'm going to have a vegetable with every single meal. Like, it doesn't have to be this huge, I'm going to eliminate all sugar from my diet. I'm going to do this. It can just be these like small digestible chunks of little wins and commitments that like stay with you and produce results over a long time. And I kind of got back to that. I was like, I'm just going to commit to adding one vegetable in. I can do more, but at least one vegetable with every single meal.
Yeah, small steps. Yeah. So share with me a little bit about you know, what it's been like, or you know, benefits of working together, you know, as husband and wife, as partner, and going through this together. I think, you know, people would like to know, because I do often get, you know, partners, couples that want to come in and work with me. And I'm just curious of, you know, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I think it's helpful grocery shopping. Like if you're on the same, you have the same goals, because then you kind of shop together and you know what you make the same thing. It just makes it way easier, because who has time to like do all these separate things? So I think that's definitely makes it a lot easier. And then you could have the same topics, like talking about your goals and sharing like where you're at, and kind of being able to identify and relate with each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier when you have somebody there doing it with you, right? Rather than trying to do it on your own. Yeah, and I think just from a meal standpoint, if you're eating kind of the same things and making the same things, it's that is way more sustainable than. And I know some people probably have certain dietary restrictions, or maybe one partner wants to do this, one partner wants to do that. So if that's your plan, great. But I just think that like if you're doing it together, and we would talk about like, oh, what was the stuff you talked about on the call with Angela, or you know, how to implement that stuff. And it just helped me remain more accountable, having someone there doing it with me.
And then we also shared our little body fat, like our changes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, look. Yeah. So that was fun.
Nice. Is there anything else that you want to share with others that are considering making a lifestyle change around their, you know, their health and fitness?
Me first? You
don't have to have anything. I'm just saying, is there anything else?
Yeah, no, I think like it's this is very, I mean, yeah, it's I don't want to say it's based, it's easy to follow, right? Like it's easy to follow, and just like, I'd say just like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, honestly, that is probably the biggest thing. The results will come, but and that's why I preferred to not have any type of goal attached to like the scale, because that was always a big thing for me. Would be like, I would focus on whatever the number on the scale said. And if the number started to go up, I'm doing something wrong. I've got to deprive myself. I have to cut calories. I have to work out more. And it was almost like punishing myself rather than, like rewarding. So it's for me, it's almost like, I would say for me, it's like, don't focus so much on the number on the scale would be probably, and be easy on yourself.
Yeah, and be easier on yourself. Yeah, and just to be clear, that's something that we look at other factors instead of what's on the scale. That's
Other
exactly
than
right.
correct. Right.
Yeah, and other than calories, right?
Other than calories, right?
Yeah. Rachel, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would also add, because we have always been very active. So for us, I always think it was the food. It was the hardest thing for us. We didn't have to like try to work out. Like we've always done strength training, which the strength is just so important. And so in that way, that wasn't hard for us. It was just always the food. So I think, again, like getting this lifestyle and understanding what is healthy. Oh, I can eat a carb. Oh, I can have toast with like a little, some almond butter. Oh, like it's so nice. And so just not feeling deprived. And also like, I don't feel like I had to be every day I'm in this calorie range and we have to do that. Like, no, like we have weekend stuff. We go to parties, like, so I think we were able to have the flexibility, because I just don't do well when I do well when I'm strict, but it's not sustainable for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you found a way to meet your goals and then still maintain it with more flexibility, not such rigidity.
Yeah, because we get the body, which I love, getting the muscle and fat percentage was super helpful, because you don't feel tied to the scale. It's like, oh, I have my muscle, like I'm in a good spot, or I just only lost fat. So I just felt way less tied to the scale.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for both of you for taking the time out to spend a little time and share your experience. I really appreciate it. And I know others will also. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Let me hit unrecord or whatever it is.
Hopefully
anything else you want?
it up. Did the blur mess it up? Because I hope that didn't like screw everything up.
Nothing can mess it up.
Okay.
There's nothing that you can mess up. Let me figure out how to unrecord this. Stop recording. Oh, stop.